Many believe getting rich happens by accident, manifesting a brilliant idea. In reality, generating wealth is a cold, mechanical framework built on strict execution. This framework comes from Felix Dennis, a self-made billionaire and publishing magnate. This is his raw operational experience translated into a 5-step digital blueprint for startup architecture. Initializing the system requires total commitment. You must cut loose from negative influences and prevarication, as even minor distractions will stall the system's momentum. You also need the psychological readiness to fail publicly and catastrophically. The architecture requires you to absorb massive errors and continue moving without losing speed. Finally, you must treat time as your only truly finite resource. Money can be replaced, but every hour spent stalling is permanently burned. Lacking any of these 3 traits creates a fatal error. The wealth-building system will crash before the first step is ever executed. Step 1 is initializing the search. Most people choose an industry based on personal inclination or a desire for glamour, which is a significant strategic error. This matrix categorizes sectors by comparing glamour against growth. Your target destination is the intersection of boring and growing industries. Positioning a company in a rising market tide provides active momentum. The rapid growth in these unglamorous sectors masks early startup errors and operational inefficiencies. The early personal computer boom is the historical proof. It was a technical, unglamorous space, defined by raw code and vintage hardware. Because the tide rose so fast, inexperienced operators built fortunes simply by providing the magazines and software the market craved. To generate wealth, deploy your resources where capital is already flowing. Your ego's preferences are irrelevant to the architecture. Step 2 is a pivot to execution. Great ideas are essentially worthless and abundant. They act as a trap for those who value concept over action. In this system, the initial concept provides only 1% of the value. Success requires relentless implementation to fill the remaining 99%. When Bruce Lee died, Felix Dennis recognized an immediate market need for a biography. He lacked writing credentials, but he moved with extreme speed to secure rights and publish magazines before more experienced rivals could even begin their planning. Sitting on an unexecuted idea provides a free blueprint for a faster, more ruthless rival to steal and monetize. Relentless implementation within your chosen market generates wealth. Original concepts are always secondary to the speed of their execution. Step 3 is configuring your ownership protocols. You must defend your equity against external dilution from both investors and partners.
Venture capitalists prioritize a total exit within 4 years, burning out long-term stability for short-term payouts. Equally dangerous are 50-50 partnerships. A clean split leads to complete paralysis, as every decision requires mutual consent and wastes precious months. You must include a Mexican shootout clause in your legal foundation. This mechanism allows you to cleanly and quickly sever a deadlocked partnership through a forced buyout. Retaining maximum ownership is the only way to preserve unilateral decision-making power. Step 4 is the deployment of human capital. It is physically impossible for a single individual to scale a fortune alone. You must identify and hire talent that is significantly smarter and more adept than you are. Once hired, you must move heaven and earth to protect them from being poached. True delegation requires you to grant talent total operational authority. You must step back and allow your team to make their own decisions and their own mistakes. This delegated structure is what allowed Felix Dennis to scale into a multi-brand media empire. By the time his companies reached this level, he was almost entirely removed from the day-to-day work. Your operational function is to architect the specific environment where top talent thrives and generates revenue. Step 5 is executing the cut-and-run protocol when a project fails. The sunk cost fallacy often tricks operators into reinforcing failure. They continue to invest money into a dying project simply because of the time they have already wasted on it. Even Felix Dennis fell into this trap with the Blender CD-ROM. Despite winning awards, the format failed to sell. He continued to advertise and market the project for years before finally acknowledging that the customers had rejected the concept. Executing a cut and run requires you to monitor the burn rate and shut the project down the moment the error is identified. You cannot let your ego keep a failing business alive. Cutting losses immediately is the only way to preserve the capital and psychological bandwidth required to fund your next venture. The entire 5-step wealth generation architecture is now fully compiled, locked into the mechanical framework, and ready for deployment. You select a rising, boring industry. You prioritize execution speed over ideas. You defend every percentage of equity. You scale through superior human capital, and you ruthlessly cut failing projects to preserve your resources. However, the entire system is governed by the value of your remaining time. A young, hungry operator has a raw advantage that billionaires cannot buy back: decades of runway and stamina. Every day you wait is a permanent loss of that advantage. Start today. Every moment spent prevaricating is a permanent loss of the youth and stamina required to see the architecture through. Initialize step 1 now.